So we will be reading from text number 45 onwards from the 7th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam. So text 45. Saesha Bhagavan Drona Prajarupena Vartate Tasyad Manor Radham Patnyaste Nan Vagad Virasu Kripi. He, Dronacharya, is certainly still existing, being represented by his son. His wife Kripi did not undergo a sati with him because she had a son. So here Draupadi is recognizing the Ashwatthama as the representative of Dronacharya. Dronacharya had died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but generally when the man dies in the Vedic culture, the woman would be so much attached to the husband that she would not be able to imagine to continue living. In the Vedic culture, the attachment between husband and wife used to be very, very strong. In fact, the wife would be, she would prefer to die rather than go on living without the presence of her husband. So if the husband died before the wife, then the wife would actually voluntarily enter, in the funeral fire of her husband, because the pain of separation from the husband would be much, much more than pain experienced in entering the fire. Nowadays, of course, it's very difficult to even comprehend that, because the society has become much, much more selfish. Relationships have become more self-centered, and as Bhagavatam says, udvahena hi dampatya rati evacha. Udvahe vahena dampatya rati evacha. The marriages will be simply done by agreement. That's what we see. People generally go and sign on a paper in the court, and they're considered married. So just like an agreement, you sign an agreement, that okay, we agree on such and such terms. So similarly, they go and sign an agreement for husband and wife. So marriage has become an agreement in Kali Yuga. And dampatya rati eva. So in Kali Yuga, the household life is simply centered around sex life. So as long as the man has ability to give satisfaction to woman in sex life, and woman has ability to give satisfaction to man in the sex life, they stick together. But if they find somebody else, then they just leave. So it's very difficult in such a society to comprehend the kind of commitment and attachment husband-wife had in the ancient times. Of course, later on, that became kind of a enforcement on the woman to burn her alive, even she didn't want it to. That was never encouraged in the Vedic culture. The sati rites were always volunteer. But because in Kali Yuga, the woman didn't have attachment to the husband, she didn't want to die. And family members started pushing, which was never the case in Vedic culture. Vedic culture, nobody would push a woman to die along with the husband. That used to be generally volunteer. Volunteer out of immense attachment for the husband. So Kripi, being a chaste and faithful wife, she also wanted to enter in the funeral fire of her husband, but because she had a grown-up son, if the woman has son, she's not allowed to. She's not allowed to enter into the funeral fire. So, just like even I think in Bhagavatam we have the instance, Sagar Maharaj's mother. So Sagar Maharaj's father, when he passed away, So Sagar Maharaj's wife, Sagar Maharaj's mother, she also wanted to enter in funeral fire. But she was not aware that the Sagar Maharaj was in her womb. So a great saintly person in the forest, he came and he told her that, no, you are pregnant, you cannot go and sati rites with your husband. And the king also had some other wives who were unchaste. They didn't want to go in sati rites. So they also survived, but they were feeling inimical towards this lady because she was very chaste and faithful to her husband. So they gave her poison to kill her and to kill the child within her womb. But the child was, so powerful, being a great Vaishnava. He absorbed all the poison and he was born with the poison. Therefore, his name became Sagara. Gara means poison and Sa means one who's born along with. So he was born with poison, therefore he's called Sagara. So, generally in the Vedic culture, if the woman has a child, she would not be allowed. Even though she wanted to, but she would not be allowed. So Kripi did not go under the right of sati rites because she had a grown-up son, Ashwathama. So Draupadi is actually expressing here that she did not go sati rites because the son is represented by the father. So for Kripi, in one way, her husband is still alive, represented by her husband, her son, Ashwathama. So in this way, Draupadi is actually regarding Ashwathama as the representative of the father, Dronacharya. Next she says, text 46, Tadharmagya Mahabhaga Bhavadbir Gauravam Kulam Vrijinam Naharati Praptum Pujyam Bandyam Abhikshana. O most fortunate one, who know the principles of religion, it is not good for you to cause grief to glorious family members who are always respectable and worshipful. So here, Draupadi is telling Arjun that this kind of behavior is not suiting. It's not suitable for Arjun to disrespect the Brahmana who is actually respectable and worshipful. Because, in the Vedic culture, the family priest was considered almost like the family member. So insulting any family member is very much, distressing. It causes tremendous grief for the family members. Generally, they say that there are many sayings in Hindi like that. Many people throwing stones at me, but the one that hit on my heart was thrown by a person who was someone of my own family. So outsider people, if they insult you or if they throw stones at you, you don't feel so bad. But if someone family member does that, speak some harsh words, insulting words, that is very painful. Very, very painful. Even if the child speaks in a high tone with his parents, that is very painful for the parents. So in the Vedic culture especially, even speaking harsh word or speaking disrespectful words was considered as good as killing one's superiors. There's a nice instance in Mahabharata regarding this. Arjun had taken vow. His vow was that anyone outside of the battlefield, because in the battlefield, generally Kshatriyas insult each other also with sharp words. But his vow was outside the battlefield. If somebody tells me to leave aside my bow, then I'll kill that person. Generally, in the battlefield, sometimes the opponent would say, hey, you are not worthy of carrying this bow. Just keep aside the bow and go. Wear some bangles and go. Get out of here. So Kshatriyas would insult each other in the battlefield like that. So that was acceptable. But outside the battlefield, if somebody tells Arjun to keep aside his bow, that he was not a fit person to carry the bow, he had taken oath that he will kill that person. If he cannot kill him, then he will enter in fire. So during the Kurukshetra war, one day it so happened that Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was having battle with Karna, and Karna overpowered Yudhishthira Maharaj. But Karna had given promise to Kunti Maharani that he would not kill any of the Pandavas except Arjun. If he gets a chance, he will kill Arjun, but he will spare the life of other 4 Pandavas. So because he had given promise to Kunti Maharani, he did not kill Yudhishthira Maharaj. And in fact, he let Yudhishthira Maharaj go. So Yudhishthira Maharaj felt very much insulted. So Arjun heard this, and Arjun, when he heard that Yudhishthira Maharaj was almost, was killed or defeated by Karna, he was very much worried. So he came running to the camp of Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Yudhishthira Maharaj, in great eagerness, he got up and he went and embraced Arjun. He said, Arjun, tell me that you have killed that son of, that Radha, that Sudputra, you must have killed him. Tell me that you have killed him. And Arjun said, no, I just heard that you were, kind of overpowered by Karna, so I just came to see you. So Yudhishthira Maharaj got so angry. He said, what is the use of you holding this bow? You should leave aside this Gandiva bow. You're not worthy of carrying this. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj was so pained by that insult from Karna. So he spoke these harsh words to Arjun, and Arjun immediately became angry. He prepared to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Krishna intervened. He said, what are you doing? You are here. But Arjun said, I have taken the oath. I have taken the vow that anyone who tells me to keep the bow down, then I will kill him. Outside the battlefield, if he tells me to do like that, then I'll kill the person. So Krishna said, all right. That is okay, you have taken the oath, but you don't have to kill him. He said, how I fulfill my oath? He said, you simply insult him. Because according to the Vedas, insulting, or the Vedic culture, insulting a superior, speaking some harsh words to superior, is considered as good as killing him. So Arjuna was very hesitant. How can I insult Yudhishthira Maharaj? He was willing to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he couldn't think of insulting Yudhishthira Maharaj. Because insulting was considered worse than actually killing. This is a Kshatriya spirit. He was willing to kill Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he was hesitant to insult him. But because Krishna said that you insult him, that's okay. You have to fulfill your oath. So Arjun spoke some insulting words to Yudhishthira Maharaj, saying that, oh, you are such a coward. You were defeated by Karna and you came back. How you came back? What kind of Kshatriya you are? And speaking these words, immediately Arjun felt so terrible. He fell at the feet of Yudhishthira Maharaj, begged forgiveness for speaking these harsh words. So this used to be the culture, that even speaking harsh word to a superior was considered as good as killing the superior. Because in Kali Yuga, people have absolutely no sense. They speak, with superiors, they will speak harsh, insulting words. There's no sense of culture or respectability. But here Draupadi is saying that it's not befitting for you, telling Arjun that it's not befitting for you to be disrespecting a respectable family member like this. Marodin asya janani Gautami pati devata yathaham mrita pat sartam rodime ashru mukhe muhu. My lord, do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. I am aggrieved for the death of my sons. She need not cry constantly like me. So a person whose foot is pricked by a thorn doesn't like the others to be pricked with thorns. So Draupadi, being a very gentle and sympathetic Vaishnavi, she is telling Arjun that by you killing Ashwatthama, you will make the wife of Dronacharya, who is the mother of this boy, this Ashwatthama, she would also cry constantly. Like I am crying. I lost my 5 children. So I'm crying constantly. This grief is very much afflicting me. She doesn't have to go through similar grief. Please spare the life of Ashwatthama. Release him. And then she says, Yakopitam Brahma Kulam Rajanyer Ajitatmabhi Tatkulam Pradhati Ashu Sanubandham Chucharpitam. If the kingly administrative order, being unrestricted in sense control, offends the Brahmana order and enrages them, then the fire of that rage burns up the whole body of the royal family and brings grief upon them all. So here is a very powerful instruction. Of course, Draupadi is not giving instruction, but she's just reminding to Arjun that the duty of Kshatriyas, the kingly class, is to be always subordinate and respectful to Brahmanas. Because if a Kshatriya, being proud, disrespects Brahmana, then the tragedy of their lives begin from that point onwards. We have a lot of instances in history. For example, of course, we understand that in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, it was actually the will of the Lord. Krishna had personally made arrangement for Parikshit Maharaj to come back home, back to Godhead. But still, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die within 7 days because of a slight offense to a Brahmana. And similarly, we know from the pastime of Lord Parshuram. During Parshuram's time, the Kshatriyas, especially the kings of Haihaya, Kartavir Arjun, and all the allies of Kartavir Arjun, they had become so puffed up. They were highly disrespectful to Brahmanas. Because especially Kartavir Arjun was himself so powerful. Being a great devotee of Lord Dattatreya, he had received immense benedictions from Dattatreya. So he had become so powerful, that he was very much disrespectful to Brahmanas. Not only disrespectful, he was actually tormenting Brahmanas. Similarly, Ravana. Ravana was he was a Kshatriya as well. Being the brother of Kubera, he was also kind of a Kshatriya. Highly demoniac though, but he was Kshatriya. But he would actually go hunting for the sages and Brahmanas. Of course, he had Brahmanas in his kingdom as well, but they were all demoniac Brahmanas, atheistic Brahmanas. They were, inimical towards Lord Vishnu. So, so although Ravana was also a Kshatriya, but he was highly disrespectful to Brahmanas. Similarly, the Ravana's nephew, his name was Lavanasur. He was king of Mathura at that time. He used to go in the morning hunting for the sages. That was his breakfast. He would kill some sages or Brahmanas and eat them in the breakfast. He was kind of a Rakshasa. He would eat human flesh, but human flesh of Brahmanas and sages. So, and we see, consequently, they were destroyed. They were completely ruined because of their offenses to Brahmanas and the sages. They were ruined. So Draupadi is reminding Arjuna that, if the kings become puffed up and they start offending Brahmanas, then naturally the anger of the Brahmanas actually burns the entire dynasty of such puffed up kings. Text 49, Sutta Uvacha, Dharmyam Nyayam Sakrunam Nirvyalikam Samam Mahat Raja Dharma Suto Rajya Pratyanannad Vacho Dvija. Sutta Goswami said, "O Brahmana, King Yudhishthira fully supported the statements of Queen, which were in accord with the principles of religion, and glorious, full of mercy and equity, without duplicity." So Yudhishthira Maharaj supported the statements of Draupadi. Because the statements of Draupadi were actually according to religious principles. Are showing respect to the Dvija Bandhu like Ashwatthama is, could be debatable whether it was appropriate or not. All other aspects that she spoke about, forgiving Ashwatthama, not killing him, was perfectly in accordance with the religious principles. Nakulaha Sahadevascha Yudhano Dhananjaya Bhagavan Devaki Putro Yecha Neyascha Yoshita. Nakul and Sahadev, the younger brothers of the king, and also Satyaki, Arjun, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Devaki, and the ladies and others all unanimously agreed with the king. So everyone, including Arjun himself, including Krishna, everybody agreed what Draupadi said and what was acknowledged by Yudhishthira Maharaj as correct or right. But Tatramrishito Bhima Tasya Shreyan Vadha Smrita Na Bhartur Natmanascharthe Yohan Supattan Shishun Viraha Vritha. Bhima, however, angrily disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit who had murdered sleeping children for no purpose, for neither his nor his master's interest. So, if somebody has some personal grudge or some enmity, or if somebody doesn't have personal grudge or enmity, but if he's told by the master, no, then if somebody does action like what Ashwatthama did, it could be understandable that, oh, he was obliged by his master to do the job. Just like, even in modern times, if say, for example, a person who's working in a company and he's pressurized by the boss to do something illegal or inappropriate, of course, he's punished, but he is not punished as much as the owner is punished. The person who pressurized him to do that is punished. So similarly, Bhima is saying that he didn't have any personal interest, because these 5 children and the 5 sons of Draupadi that he killed, they had not done anything to him. Yes, we understand that Drishtadumna, the son of Drupada, the brother of Draupadi, he had killed his father. But these 5 children of Draupadi, they had not done anything to Ashwatthama. Or even Duryodhana had no interest in killing them. he wanted to kill Pandavas, but not the sons of Pandavas. So, therefore, he has unnecessarily killed the children, sleeping children. Therefore, he should be punished. Then text 52. Chaturbhuja. Okay. Nishamya Bhima Gaditam Draupadischa Chaturbhujam Alokyavadanam Sakyur Idam Aha Hasan Iva. Chaturbhuj, the four-armed lord, or the personality of Godhead, after hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, saw the face of his dear friend Arjun and began to speak as if smiling. Now, this is actually very interesting. What is happening here is Draupadi, but before Draupadi, Arjun had promised Draupadi that he would kill Ashwatthama. Okay. And Draupadi, when she saw Ashwatthama in that condition, being bound by the ropes like an animal, she didn't like it. She wanted him to be released. She kind of forgave him for the offenses that he had done. But Arjun had promised that he will kill Ashwatthama. And now, when Draupadi said that Ashwatthama should be forgiven, even Yudhishthira Maharaj approved it. So he's the king, not only elder brother of Arjun, but he's also the king. So king is also approving that, okay, he should be released. Okay. And Krishna also agreed what Yudhishthira Maharaj said. Everyone agreed, but Bhima is saying no, he should be killed. And Bhima is again elder brother of Arjun. So Arjun is obliged to obey him also. He is obliged to obey Yudhishthira Maharaj as well. He is obliged to take the instruction of Krishna also seriously. And here is a completely contradictory instruction. Bhima saying he killed him immediately. And Yudhishthira Maharaj saying no, he cannot be killed. Draupadi saying no, he cannot be killed. Krishna's also approving their statements. So this is kind of a predicament. And now what Krishna is going to speak is actually creating a further dilemma for the Arjuna. So what he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahma Bandhur Nahantavya Adatai Vadharhana Mayevobhyam Atma Amannatam Paripahi Anushasanam Kuru Pratishrutam Satyam Yat Tat Santavyata Priyam Priyam Cha Bhimasenasya Panchalya Mahyam Evacha. The personality of Godhead Shri Krishna said, a friend of Brahmana is not to be killed. But if he is an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me. So now, Krishna is telling Arjun, you have to satisfy, first of all, he's telling him that the contradictory statements from the scriptures, that if aggressor means a person who is attacking with the weapons, 6 kinds of aggressor, Prabhupada explained before. So 6 kinds of aggressor, a person who has killed the family members, who is standing with the weapons to kill you, who sets the home on the fire, who gives poison, who kidnaps the wife, they can be killed immediately. Even if he is a Brahma Bandhu, he should be killed. So these rulings are there in the scriptures. And Krishna is telling Arjun, but you have also promised your wife that you will kill him. So you have to fulfill your promise as well. And Draupadi is saying that you cannot kill him. So you have to satisfy her also. You have to kill him for fulfilling your promise, but you have to spare him to satisfy Draupadi. And you have to satisfy Bhima. To satisfy Bhima, you have to kill him again. But Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying you don't kill him. And you have to satisfy me also. And Krishna is speaking equivocal words. Kill him, don't kill him, kill him, don't kill him. So it's very confusing situation for Arjun. So Arjun is put into a perplexing situation. He's perplexed. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to kill him or not kill him? And Krishna is not giving him any unequivocal instruction. Just kill him or just leave him. No. No. Krishna is speaking equivocal instructions. As in Bhagavad Gita also Arjun said, Vyamishtaneva vakena buddhi moha savimai. So he's telling Krishna, my dear Krishna, your equivocal words are confusing me. So here also apparently Krishna is speaking equivocal instruction. Kill him and don't kill him. Emphasizing both the things. So let's see what Arjun does. Sutta uvacha Arjuna sahasagya harir hardam athasina mani jahara murdanyam dvijasya saha murdhajam. Sutta Goswami said, just then Arjun could understand the motive of the Lord by his equivocal order. Thus, with his sword, he severed both hair and jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. So, Arjun, he understood what Krishna wants him to do. This will be more clear in text 56. Vimucha rashana baddham balahatya ata prabham tejasa manina hinam shibiran niryapayat. He, Ashwatthama, had already lost his bodily luster due to infanticide. And now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus, he was unbound and driven out of camp. Now, this is a very significant incidents here. Ashwatthama was not an ordinary human being. He was born, from the womb of his mother, he was born with a jewel on his forehead. So jewel was actually fixed on his forehead. It was stitched to his skin on the forehead. And therefore, people could understand that, oh, here's Ashwatthama. Because Ashwatthama always looked effulgent because of the beautiful jewel on his forehead. So he was born with the jewel. So people didn't have to, ask his introduction, because people knew Ashwatthama has jewel on his forehead. So they saw Ashwatthama, they know, oh, here is Ashwatthama. Okay. So everybody knew that Ashwatthama had jewel on the forehead. Arjun removed that jewel. That means that was, of course, painful for Ashwatthama to have the jewel removed from his forehead. Must be a wound. It is said that till this day Ashwatthama has that wound because of the curse of the Supreme Lord. That wound is not filled till this day. He still has that wound on the forehead. So that wound and missing jewel. If anyone asked him, who are you? And he says, I'm Ashwatthama. Hey, Ashwatthama has jewel on the forehead. You are not the Ashwatthama. So that would be like dying every time people asked for his identity. It's a great insult. So it's as good as killing Ashwatthama. So he removed his jewel. He shaved off his head, removed his hair. The Brahman is not supposed to be completely shaved off, supposed to keep a shikha on the forehead. But Arjuna shaved off all his hair. It's a great insult for a Brahmana. And removed his jewel and driven him out of his camp. That without any property, taking away confiscating all his property and just driving him away. It is a great insult for the Brahmana. It's more than actually death. So, text 57. Vapanam drabinadanam sthanan niryapanam tatha ishahi brahma bandhunam badho nanyosti daihikam cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishment for the relative of Brahmana. There is no injunction of killing the body. So Arjun knew this injunction, that a Brahma Bandhu should not be killed. The body should not be killed, but he can be given punishment. Putra shokartur sarve Pandava sa Krishnaya Swanam Martyanam Mritanam Yat Krityam Chakrur Nirharanadhikam. Thereafter, the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. So, in this way, the Pandavas and Draupadi and all the family members of the Kuru Vamsha, they performed the last rites for all the people who had died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So with this, the chapter ends. Next time we'll start the 8th chapter. So thank you very much, everyone. If anyone has any questions, you may ask now.
So Prabhuji, I have a question. So 2 questions. No, actually 3 questions, but I'll wait for other devotees to ask you. The first one is, what is the significance of that jewel on the Ashwatthama's forehead? Prabhuji, what is his previous life? Is there any significant story regarding that?
I never heard, Mataji. I never came across any such instance, but one thing I know that, yeah, Ashwatthama was born with the jewel, just like Karna was born with, the earrings and kavach. So similarly, Ashwatthama was born with the jewel on his forehead, which indicated that he was a special person. He was not an ordinary human being.
And he's still alive, right, Prabhuji? Last time you mentioned in Badrika.
Yes, he's still alive. He lives in Himalayas under the care of Vyasdev, and he's learning from Vyasdev all the Veda.
So, but in Vrajadam, the Vrajavasis says there is a forest, Prabhuji, I forgot. So during the parikrama time, the devotees don't go to that particular forest. So they say he's still roaming around there. How true is that, Prabhuji?
No, he's in Badrika Ashram, Mataji. He's living in Badrika Ashram, and he is, learning Vedas because next Manvantara he's going to be Vyasdev. He'll occupy the position of Vyasdev. Okay. So he's in Badrika Ashram somewhere, and he'll live there for a very, very long time.
I have one more question. If other devotees don't have, I'll ask. If any other devotees have questions, please.
Sure, Madhuri.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. This is Anuradha Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Madhuri.
Prabhuji, last time you told that Ashwadama in the next Manamantra, he will become a Vyasadeva. So how come he become Prabhuji? He has done tremendous things and he's not respecting his father, and he killed Pandava's sons and everything. He has done so a lot of things. So how he can become a Vyasadeva, Prabhuji? He's doing.
Well, every living entity has some history. They say every saint has a past, every sinner has a future, right? So if you take even the most saintly persons in this world, they have some history, some impious history. Say Valmiki Rishi. Valmiki Muni, before he became Valmiki, he was actually a dacoit. He had killed so many people. But just see the compilation. Once he was transformed by the mercy of Narada Muni, he has become such a powerful sage that he could write Ramayana before even transpired. It's not that Ramayana was written by Valmiki Muni after Lord Ramchandra had performed the pastime. He actually compiled Ramayana before even Lord Ramchandra's descent. Okay. So, it doesn't mean that a person has done some sinful activity or some heinous deed. he is to be eternally condemned. No. And Ashwatthama is not an ordinary person. He has done, these killings, and he was, of course, inspired by the Kala, because Lord Shiva, in the form of Kala, inspires different people to perform different activities of destroying or destruction. So he was very much inspired by Lord Shiva's Rudra aspect of destroying, destruction. But of course, he had responsibility because he had grudge. He was holding grudge. Therefore, the Rudra acted out through him and by the medium. So we have responsibility for our actions. But doesn't mean that the person is to be eternally condemned. So yes, he was punished for his misdeeds, but he's now, getting trained under the guidance of Vyasdev. Vyasdev is Lord Narayan himself. So Lord Narayan is personally training Vyasdev, Ashwatthama, to become the next Vyasdev. So there's nothing surprising or astonishing if he becomes Vyasdev in the next Manvantara.
Thanks, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Very good.
Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, so on the same line of questions, Vyasdev is one of the avatars or guna avatars, I guess, right? So of Narayan. How a person like Ashwatthama can become, because he's a totally different soul, right? Totally different entity, right? How he can become an avatar of Narayan or Krishna?
Well, the Vyasdev that we have, current Vyasdev, he is Lord Narayan himself, Lord Narayan's powerful incarnation. Okay. But generally, Vyasdev is the Shakti avatar. Okay. Generally, the position of Vyasa is taken by a living entity who is empowered by the Lord. So next Manvantara, apparently, it will be Ashwatthama who will be kind of empowered incarnation of the Lord. He will be considered empowered incarnation because he is being empowered by Lord Narayan himself now. Lord Narayan is training him. So he will become Vyasdev in the next Manvantara, being empowered by the Lord himself.
Okay. Thank you.
Prabhuji, last question. Can you just briefly suggest us, like, I know in the morning you have to read Bhagavatam, afternoon Mahabharata, Ramayana. Can you explain that briefly, Prabhuji, if possible? Reading the scripture.
There is, I think, some words like that, that one should read, start the day with Bhagavatam, and, in the daytime should, read Ramayana or Mahabharata. I don't remember exactly the sequence. But the whole idea here is to actually, be Krishna conscious. Engage in the activities which help us to remember Krishna. The idea is that. And the idea is to remember Krishna. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu vismartvyo na jatujit. Sarva vidhi nishedasu etayor eva kinkar. All the vidhi and nishedas, all the do's and don'ts in the scriptures, they are only driven for two things. To make us do things. What are the two things? Smartavyo satatam Vishnu. One is to always remember Vishnu. And vismartvyo na jatujit, to never forget him. So that's the idea. So if you can chant, you can sing Krishna's glories in the form of bhajans, you can read Bhagavatam, you can read Bhagavad Gita, you can read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Whatever time you have to spend, read in sequence, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Ramayana. You can read all these scriptures, but the whole idea is to become Krishna conscious.
Prabhuji, you're celebrating this December 2nd tomorrow for Maharaj Day according to Tithi, or you're going according to the...
We will have small, kind of celebration at home on tomorrow, but the actual, that is actual, according to Tithi. But on the Sunday, 5th, we have a celebration for all the devotees who are coming here to our home.
But it's 7th, right? Maharaj birthday. According
Sorry?
to calendar. It's a 7th, right? December 7th.
December 7th, according to English calendar. Tomorrow, according to Vaishnava calendar for the West Coast. And I think 3rd, according to the Vaishnava calendar for the East Coast.
Because initially started celebrating enrichment on according to the English calendar. So we are sticking to that. So
Okay, that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much, all the devotees.